Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Wow, construction chaos at its finest. Your boss sounds like a piece of work, OP, pushing you to the limit with short nails and no time for proper solutions. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. When shortcuts lead to coolant shower and hotel havoc. This was about 10 years ago when I first started working as a carpenter in a fairly large city doing commercial work. This was maybe my second job, so I didn't really know what I was doing, but I was trying my best. We were doing all types of random stuff: drywall, framing, doors, trim work, crown molding, and it was a lot all at once, but I was trying. My boss at the time would constantly be an a-hole to me every chance he got to show me up. Not even a, hey man, this is how you should do this for X, Y, and Z reason. It was always a sort of, hey R-word, stop effing around. Like I said, I was new and figured, oh, that's just how construction workers are. So I brushed it off and tried to keep going. It got to the point where my boss flipped out on me one day for forgetting to put someone else's nail gun away. Because I was an apprentice, I was at fault because I wasn't aware there was a gun out that wasn't put away the night before. My boss flipped and threatened to fire me when one of the other journeymen stepped up and started yelling back, "Fire me, dude, it was my gun, this guy's trying." I'll always remember that, but it was sort of us versus him. Fast forward a couple of weeks and we're putting up crown molding, and first we were putting up pieces of 1x3 on the wall at the height of the bottom of the crown molding so the crown would have a better way to install, which is also known as a nailer. Anyway, we were to glue the backs and we were using finish nails at an angle to tack, temporarily hold, the boards to the wall while the glue dried. It was madness in there that day. Everyone was running around like an a-hole, and we started to run out of nails. We only had much shorter nails that barely even went through the wood enough to poke into the wall behind it. Half the time, our nailer boards were falling off the wall. We all told our boss this, and he said, "It's fine, just keep going." "Okay, boss, we're firing in as many nails as we can, trying to get these boards to stick. We didn't even have screws long enough to use." Rather than us going to do something else instead of him making a run to the Home Depot, we kept going. Other trades were trying to get their work done too. The wallpaper guys had to pull out the air conditioner/heater combos away from the wall so they could get their paper behind it, somewhat, while we were trying to install our boards. The danger in this is that all of the air conditioners are plumbed together for their coolant using a mix of 50-50 water and alcohol. I told my boss that we should make a couple of little boxes that will go over these flexible plumbing lines behind the air conditioners so they don't break. He said it'd take too much time. The nails we were using would have worked to make these little boxes since we could shoot them straight in, whereas the boards we were using for the walls, the nails were going in at an angle, which effectively means it has to go through more wood before it hits the actual wall, which is why the nails were too short for the wall. Going straight into the wall was working even less successfully. Even though more of the nail was in the wall, it was the combination, one nail below at an angle going down and another above it angle up. That was keeping the boards from falling straight out. We could have used scrap pieces of wood to make these boxes, but if he saw us using them, he would have flipped on us for wasting time. Well, the inevitable happened, and one of their nailer pieces fell straight down the wall and hit one of these coolant lines. 15,000 gallons of coolant shot straight out of the wall, blasting the air conditioner out of the way, and was hitting the wall about 15 feet away. The system had an industrial-sized pump in the basement to continuously force the coolant mix through the whole building's coolant system, so it was very pressurized. It poured for about 20 minutes straight. Some people left their tools, phones, and lunchboxes in that room and ran in to save them, and came back completely soaked after only a couple of seconds. There was no shutoff valve because it broke off, and the nearest one was in some unknown access panel somewhere that nobody knew about. All the air conditioners lost their coolant, so there was no air conditioners working for any of the rooms in the hotel. We only renovated 2 floors at a time, so every other floor had occupants in it. This was also in the middle of the summer. All that water flooded down through the lower floors, which just happened to be on top of newly finished banquet hall that we'd just completed. Nearly all the ceiling tile that we'd installed in that 200 by 100 room had been soaked. The patterned ritzy carpet was soaking in alcohol and water. 10 rooms below the room had been soaked. It was a effing nightmare, all because my boss wanted us to keep going instead of getting us the right supplies. All of it combined was $150,000. Having to get rooms at other hotels for occupants and lost profits and redoing tile and mold remediation and just general redoing things. That's just from immediate damages. I don't know if you could calculate in like loss of future business or bad reviews and all that. And our second story. My tenant did over $50,000 in damages and her new landlord was rude to me. When my wife, 24-year-old female, and I, 28-year-old male, were starting out, we had a little old rental house downtown that we leased to male students. When we moved out of the county for a job, I figured it'd be easier to rent to one family rather than chase around 6 separate broke students for rent, shared bedrooms. The first family that we put in there turned out to be a bad choice on my part. Misty, 40-year-old female, was fine for the first 4 months or so. When I visited in person, the house was noticeably getting gross. They weren't taking care of things. This might have been somewhat forgivable, but then Misty stopped paying rent on time. To make matters worse, there was a plumbing issue that sounded expensive. The toilets were backing up and sewage was soaking the carpets in the basement. The whole place stank. I didn't even know why. The plumber ran a camera down the pipes to see what was happening. He informed me that the clog was a result of a buildup of needles. You know the kind one might use for something illegal? I opted to pay $1,000 to have them use high pressure to flush out the system. Unfortunately, my house was nearly 100 years old, so the high pressure destroyed the clay connector to the city's sewage system. The only way to fix it was to shut down a major residential road and dig to it for $30,000. Insurance wasn't in any hurry to pay either. I didn't have that kind of cash sitting around at the moment, and Misty was still in there. I wanted to evict Misty, but it'd be a long process, and I knew that she would fight tooth and nail to stay as she didn't want to go back to her parents, who lived just down the street. By this point, my house resembled a hoarder's home. Rather than evicting Misty, I called the health department because they were living with no running water and a porta potty that they rented in the backyard. It was gross. They also had 2 girls there under the age of 10. It took a visit from a team of sheriffs to get her out, and only well after the property was condemned. When Misty finally did leave, she left about 100 pounds of rotting meat on the front lawn. She also left the house a giant mess and stole many of my things. I was so relieved that she was gone that I almost didn't care. She was a major source of stress in my life and in my marriage. It ended up taking several hundred hours and over $50,000 to fix up the house. Eventually, insurance came through for most part of it. I tried not to be resentful about the situation because being an addict and living in a condemned building is its own hell. There wasn't anything that I could feel good about doing to her. She was already doomed to live poorly based on her own choices. Oddly, Misty had the gal text me and ask for a character referral for a new place since she didn't have anyone else, other than her parents presumably. I was dumbfounded but texted back a thumbs up. Maybe I could save the next guy. Eventually, I did get the call from the next guy asking about Misty. He was an a-hole to me on the phone. He was talking over me and talking down to me. He was an expert landlord doing his due diligence, etc. I tried to get my story about Misty in, but then I paused. I listened to him talk down to me some more. I'm a total stranger. What the hell? And then I waited until it was my turn. I told him, Misty was great. I had some major plumbing issues, otherwise she'd still be with me. Treat me with disrespect? Good luck with Misty. You two deserve each other. Misty got the place and thanked me. Then I never heard from either of them again. Petty me. Always be polite to other people, especially in the same business. You never know when you'll need something. The truth, the favor, help. And it's just a good thing to do. And our next story. Dumb landlord refuses to fix a leak. But before we start, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. I wouldn't say our landlord is malicious, just dumb and lazy. I live in a condo tower where each unit is privately owned and I rent from the owner of one suite. Recently, my bathtub faucet developed a small leak. I emailed my landlord about it and he ignored it. A couple days later, it had gotten bigger, so I emailed again. No reply. Third time. Now it's a constant running stream of hot water. I texted and he said he isn't going to fix it. All right, Buster, have it your way. So I let it fester, and it keeps getting worse and worse. 2 weeks in, I get an urgent call from the condo board that they need emergency access to my suite because a leak from my suite is coming onto the floor below and damaging several areas. Of course, I say yes, and they dispatch a plumber for the leak and numerous contractors to repair the rooms below that have been damaged. Eventually, my landlord gets the bill, $8,000 from the condo board for the repairs, and finally emails me in a tantrum asking what this bill is for. So I reply, forwarding him the original emails and text saying he was not going to fix it. I never heard back. Ha! Got what he deserved, but I'm afraid your rent's about to go up. And our second story for today. And our last story. Sued my HOA. I sued my HOA for water damage. I hired an inspector that told me the damage is from sidings and window trim. HOA refused to make repairs because they claimed that the damage wasn't caused by siding. Long story short, I won the case, but they appealed. After filing an appeal, they sent an inspector of their own and concluded that the siding is damaged. They claim that it will complete repairs to the siding, trim, and interior to my unit. I want to use my own contractor for my interior. They said they want my contractor's license number, insurance, and scope of work. I spent a year begging for them to make repairs, then I sue them, and now they want to inspect but still appeal against me? For more context, I told HOA that I was having a leak from the ceiling. They ignored me for a year. I decided to write a letter demanding they respond to my request for them to get involved, but they had lawyers threaten to sue me for $30,000 plus for repairs they did in my unit. Due to a previous leak they caused, it was retaliatory. I decided to go forward with suing for $10,000 in spite of receiving that threatening letter and asking for mediation for many months. I won the small claims for $10,000. They appealed before doing an inspection. They finally sent someone out a week ago, and he concluded that they are in fact liable. I found out from the neighbor directly upstairs from me that he's been telling HOA about the siding for 5 years and that his balcony will cause a leak in my unit in the coming years. I've been fighting HOA by myself for about 2 years now. Dude, get out from under the HOA's thumb, for real. So many nightmare stories from oppressive HOA regimes across the country. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.